Yeah, I met one of the guys down by Lone Rock, 14. One of them was waiting.
Oh, excellent. That's why I shot that immediate letter.
Computer's cold because it was in the car.
After we announced that, I said, well, this is great, but in no way do we think it's.
Well, and like I said, the university at one point was like, we understand, and then in the next breath, the next meeting, they were like, oh, but you're getting, no.
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 Good try there, Bob.
We're getting a drop in the bucket.
Huh?
Getting a drop in the bucket.
Yeah. Hello?
There he is.
Oh, he just about saying.
I'm glad I went into work late this morning so I could vote first because there was no way I would have gone all the way
If I can't.
and then back.
Did you hear my announcement, Gary?
But that.
We hired a finance director today.
Come on, somebody around you.
Yeah, he's from Elroy. 36 years experience, CPA.
So Marty, on the way up here, I straightened somebody out about my email. Who was on the board, and he said, what are you gonna do about it? Shut down to administrative fixing. I said, well, that don't happen to be the case.
Well, the state's in there now. They showed up at 6:45 last night for their, their survey. So I was out there because Ann's an hour away. So she called me and she said, can you go out? Yeah, absolutely. So I went out there until she got there.
I see a statement there today, right?
They'll be there till Thursday.
Yeah,
Yep, they're in their census window.
The new guy we hired for maintenance. That's it. We hired a new maintenance man.
Yeah, it's Steve's nephew.
Did you know what was going on?
Well, he was just out there to get a TB test today. That was all. He wasn't.
You got all the wrong information again.
Hi, David.
Hello, Marty. I'm hiring him away from Mark. Yeah.
Hey, Barb, how do I get some of the 6,000 saved messages off my system?
Hey, don't know you need.
Well, I've got 6,000, well, I guess, I suppose they're on that.
We're around this county.
And I just swipe them.
You have to go online and
Okay, good that you do
That,
I can do it for you.
Yeah,
Resign.
How much, what do you want archived off? How recent do you want it?
I'd say, give me a couple of years worth or something.
No, you have that many since in the last 6 months, because I already did that for you once.
Oh, you did?
He,
6 months.
yeah, that's fine.
Alright,
I'm getting better.
I know.
State yesterday,
I want to do one more.
update on, you were the director of positions. And she had.
That's all I do is work 6 months work. Everything else gets deleted.
Pretty sure they meant.
So I got
Unfortunately,
12,000 emails.
What they call it.
1,000 emails. That's only 6
I'll
months.
reach out.
It's amazing how many come in.
And that's just
Don't
in
softball this week.
my primary. I've got stuff in my other
It
file.
sounded like she was following up on that specific.
Okay.
Crazy.
I didn't say anything.
I see it's time. I'm gonna call the April meeting of the Richland County Finance and Personnel Committee to order. And Mr. Kalish, you're there. Could you take the roll, please?
Carol. Steve.
There you go. Brewer,
Here.
Buck, Manny, here. Gacho. Turk,
Here.
Williamson,
Here.
Bowie,
Here.
Fleming. All right, you have 6 out of that.
Thank you. There was proof of notification.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the meeting is properly on.
We have a pretty short agenda. We have a 13-point agenda. I'll take a motion.
Karen, your camera's not on. I don't know if you didn't turn the.
Mr. Cooey, seconded by Manning. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We have an agenda. Approval of the March 5th and 19th minutes. I will declare those approved as read unless someone has a question or comment. I do approve those as published. Public comment. Reports, update on radio tower project.
I was just trying to get my stuff up. Derek, can you? Yep. It's gonna be hard for you to see on here, but I will go over this. Just trying to get into my stuff so I can see it a little better while I go over it.
Oh, our packet, was the packet updated?
That email us too, so we didn't do it.
All right, so,
Hold on, I'll remote to my computer and I will present it there.
thanks.
Saturday morning. Does it always roar like that? So,
No, we can turn
It's
it
not
off.
either.
oh, let's turn it over.
No.
I thought I turned it down.
I just turned that dial last time. No, that thing there. Off. This is good.
There, thank you.
Bear with me while I join the meeting. and then-
Here, I've got my jacket, Joanne, if you need it. I'll give it to you.
No, I got mine, but you know, after being outside, it's kind of wet. I'll just go back to work and turn on my space heater until the election results come.
Gotta go, oh, yeah. Did you get the vote in Newtown Hall?
did.
You gonna call that Cooley Hall?
We-
Up the coolie bill.
You're all there, you want to vote.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the updates. You moved them into
I
the
moved them
folder?
into the March, this folder for this meeting.
Okay, sorry.
I'm doing from the one to the other.
Thank you. Sorry. Didn't mean to involve you.
It's fun.
Mr. Chairman, did you approve both sets of minutes?
I did.
Join the meeting and then.
Steve Carroll on.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Is it our 7A and 7B?
It is on your iPad.
Yes, 7A,
But
7B,
he's trying to present off of the
the old packet.
old packet, so.
Do I need to stop sharing, Barb, or no?
I'll take over when I'm ready.
Okay.
And I just keep.
She just texts you.
I need to get out. Okay. Can you hit sign in there? It kicked you out of the meeting. You're not in the meeting any longer. When I opened on mine, it automatically kicked you out. Oh. Okay. So what we're looking at is a summary of the entire project for the radio tower. And this is a month old. So we have made a couple of big payments this month. Do you want to hit close that, Derek? Because it
What's
keeps,
this one?
no,
The
where it
stage.
says customize your stage. Here, in the middle. In the very middle.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah.
There you go. This is very much, it's old. We've made some large payments this month. So we are on track with our budget. We're on track also with time. The one thing I don't have back yet, and I did email again, was I don't have Josh's quote yet for the roads. But he seemed to think that we would be fine with that. So when we start to look at this, there are a few things that you have to understand. The initial budget is where we thought we would be when we borrowed 8.31 million. This final borrowing budget is 7.83 is what we think we will be at. We do have a little bit of space between the two. We did borrow the full 8.1 with the thoughts that there were extra monies, then perhaps there are other projects that the county could accomplish with those monies. We will not know until the end of the radio tower project if there are extra monies. Our goal is to do this as fiscally responsible as possible and try to stay at the 7.8, but I won't make any promises either way. Currently, the radio vendor system totals, it says 2.79. That is what we are budgeted at, our actual infrastructure. We have signed the agreement for that. We have not made that much payment to them. What we have made in payments is over here in the green. We have paid about 900,000 to them. That means that our DDR, which is our design requirement, has been met. And that was when we made the second payment of 551,000. So the other thing that we have done, the subscriber equipment is still in at 222,000. It is unclear that that will remain. That is dependent mostly on things that we're going to talk about as we move along. Professional services, those are pretty much set in stone. Those are what they're going to be. We have signed the contracts for the project consulting service at 196. That's Mike Day and True North. And we've also, the civil engineering is signed with, oh my goodness, I can see the gentleman's name, Philip is his name, and I cannot remember the company. Well, we've signed those contracts. They are in place. They will not go above that. Below there are U.S. Cellular fees. We have to pay for U.S. Cellular to do their tower studies. Those are fees that are already paid because we're putting additional equipment on their existing towers. We have to pay for those studies. Those are back. That is what we've already paid. It's in stone. Civil vendors. This is our biggest unknown. We will not know all of the civil prices till the RFP goes out. RFP will go out next week. We are hoping for Monday. Then we will get that back. Mike Day will be putting the RFP out on the sites that, sorry, Candace.
Demand Star?
Yes. That is where Mike is going to be putting it out. He had requested questions come back to us for that. I don't think that's appropriate now. I'll address that tomorrow. I think questions need to go back to him.
Yep, I agree.
He's who we've hired to do this. I think that's where they need to go. The civil contract equipment is the actual towers, the roads, that type of thing. We don't know what those prices are going to come back at. The roads are the highway shop is going to do for us. And I'm sure I'll have by Friday, that is on the public works agenda, and I will have a number by then. But until we get those prices back, this is still our best estimate. And this is based on current costing projections for projects that are happening nearby us. Richland County, these are the property leases. These are things that we will have to pay annually going forward. It is not going to be 180,000, but purchasing a land and getting those things together. Currently, we are at 40,000, and then there's electric utility construction because we do have to as well as putting in the roads, building up towers. We're gonna have to put in utilities to support those towers. That's where we come up to the 180,000. The contingency still remains. We have 135 in the radio contract contingency, and we have 616 in the civil contingency. That we did move around a little bit of money because we're really certain on the radio contract piece. We're certain we have all of the equipment correct. I got a slew of emails today confirming that the microwave dishes were correct and like just cementing in those pieces. So the more contingent part is gonna be the civils, which we won't have until after those bids come back. Jail controls and CCTV update, we signed that in at 330, so that's below budget. I just sent the payment of 120,000 to them to begin the project. And that will be with Sergeant. So with those, the other two under there are the project consulting services and security vendor services. Those are wrapped up into 345. Those are all with Sergeant. And that also brings the security for the whole courthouse in. So dispatch can help to not have to have 2 camera systems that they're watching all the time. It makes it better for dispatch. So the overall project budget right now is on track. And if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them. There are several other pages to the spreadsheet that support, but this is really the main piece.
Thank you, Barb. Are there questions?
Yep, that is what falls underneath the area of, we own one corner of land and the rest of it we're going to lease. And those leases are about $3,500 a year per property owner. And those are all, agreements are signed and we're signing out the leases now.
Steve Carroll, do you have questions?
Report. March.
Well, Steve, sort of yes and no. The reason that we pulled back was so that we could be certain that the highway committee could do the roads without having to have the road construction in there by bidding that out. I don't think it's gonna affect our ability to be done on time.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you for your report, and I believe we have a motion. We don't need a motion to accept the report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Steve.
And
We can give a monthly update. I can certainly do that. Do you want that done at this committee, Steve, or just at the public safety?
you.
Mike, we're kind of losing you in and out just a little bit. I'm very sorry, but I can't quite copy what you're saying. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Number 8, moving to financial discussion and possible action. Resolution allowing for requests for proposals for replacement of existing roof of the emergency services facility.
Yep, so, I'm Amber, for those of you who haven't met me yet. I'm the interim, ambulance service director, while we look for.
Amber Birch is here to speak to us.
Yep, so, for those of you who were not at the Public Works Committee, this is a new conversation for those at Public Works. We've already walked through this a little bit. But so the Joint Ambulance Committee is, requesting for permission to be able to put out a request for proposals for us to do a roof replacement on the emergency services facility. So we, looking at the appraisal that we had of the building when we went to purchase it back in 2020, the roof was already 20 years old. So obviously it is older than that now. And at that time, they had recognized there were a couple of areas in the roof that needed to be repaired. They were very minor repairs that were needed. So when we went through the purchase process, REC actually donated $10,000 to the Joint Ambulance Committee to be able to put toward roof repair. So we have not spent that $10,000 yet. We had been waiting for the building project to get done for that addition that we had done, one project at a time kind of thing, because it was very minor issues that we had recognized. It was anticipated that in the business plan, when we walked through the planning of saving funds for roof replacement, we anticipated to replace the roof in 2026. And anticipated that it would cost about $95,000 at that point in time. So this year, the building project is basically done. That is one of the things that we'll be discussing in a little bit. And so we are looking at doing the roof repair, those minor repairs. And when we requested a quote from the person who had been working with us on the roof, had walked through the appraisal and that kind of stuff with us. He had misunderstood the initial request, and so he actually gave us a roof replacement quote, and that quote came back at $75,000. And so recognizing that that's $20,000 cheaper than what was anticipated to be in 2026, the Joint Ambulance Committee had discussed and determined that it would be most feasible to try to work through that project now. They also had considered doing it just do one section now, because only one of so if you're familiar with the building, there's kind of 3 different sections of roof now. The 2 existing sections when we purchased the building, and then there's the newer area. Only one of those 2 previously existing sections has the minor issues. And so the committee had looked at, do we just replace that one section now and replace the other section at a different time? And do different segments at a different time, so it was cheaper long run potentially. And it came back that quote would actually end up costing more to do just one section at a time. And then if you replace just one section, there's always the risk that that section will be damaged when you're replacing the other one, because people are walking on one to do work on the other. So it's most feasible to do the entire roof for the existing roof previous to the addition project at one time. And because the cost came in $20,000 cheaper, they recognized that now would be the best time to approach trying to replace that. The funds would be paid out of the ambulance budgets. So they have Fund 51, which is the normal day-to-day operating budget. And then there is the Fund 16, which is the one, again, we'll be talking about a little bit with the ambulance maintenance project. That the Fund 51 and Fund 16 are both ambulance budgets that we would be able to pay for this roof project out of. It's not anticipated there would need to be any other Richland County tax dollars. It would specifically be of Fund 51 and Fund 16.
Thank you, Amber. Questions?
So the majority of us heard it, even Steve's on that committee, Steve, Mark, and Gary are on that. One thing we asked him to do is, that what the RFP will do is possibly put rafters on it, to get away from these flat roofs. So that's part of what we're gonna ask them to look into.
Yep, so the Joint Ambulance Committee was hoping to have the RFP look at replacing with what we currently have, as well as considering what would cost for putting a truss system in. One of the things that has come to our attention that, might actually be the most feasible is they just insulate enough, build up the insulation so you don't have a truss system where you have to worry about mold and that kind of moisture buildup. You just put insulation in so it's got just enough of a rise to be able to slope it off. So that may be the most feasible direction at this point, but.
Okay, so you are actually asking for some action on this.
Yes, so I understand this needs to be approved by you guys, and then county board also to be able to approve the project.
Yep,
getting
I'll entertain a motion if you're ready. Mr. Coy, seconded by Williamson. All in favor of allowing an RFP for the roof, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Discussion and possible action, resolution amending resolution number 24-3 relating to the purchase of a used ambulance to replace the service's oldest ambulance.
So, yep, so, again, this is one of ours. So the Joint Ambulance Committee back in November had walked through the process of, wishing to purchase the used ambulance from Muscadet Ambulance, and they, so you guys had eventually approved it, county board had eventually approved, for us to purchase that. One of the things that was originally discussed with the Joint Ambulance Committee, and I believe was discussed at all of the other committees as well, but just had not gotten included in the resolution, was that the intention was always that there would be some preventive maintenance done to it. We had previously purchased a different used ambulance and did not recognize some of the preventive maintenance that we could have done prior to developing some issues, and then we ended up having to have an engine transplant basically for that unit. So in order to limit the risk of that, we're wanting to do the maintenance for that unit now. Again, according to the business plan, we had intended to replace our oldest ambulance in 2024, so this year, and anticipated that it would be roughly $50,000 is what we had figured. When we were approved to purchase the ambulance from Muscadet, it was the resolution had been written for it to be at $40,000 at the maximum amount that we would pay. We were able to negotiate the price to be $29,000 with Muscadet. So when we had set our maximum price at $40,000, we had set it with the recognition that we would have funds in our account then to be able to address the needed preventive maintenance. So with it coming in at $29,000, we certainly have the funds to be able to do that in that account. We just, again, accidentally omitted it from that resolution. So this is just to amend the resolution to allow for the preventive maintenance to be paid for.
Makes sense. Looking for a motion. Mr. Coy, seconded by Manning. All those in favor of fixing up the new used ambulance, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay.
On that.
Roll. You're on a roll, Amber.
Yep, on that, I forgot to mention, that will still cost us, less than 20% of what purchasing a brand new ambulance would cost. So certainly a win.
Are they all pretty compatible? Or one county to another, or one village to another? And I'm talking about what you would use professionally in them, not just like the engines or whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to update them at all, like this usement we got?
Yeah, so different services, when you purchase a brand new ambulance, you can set the specs that you want the box, so the patient compartment to have. And so there are numerous different layouts that you can have. And actually, one of the things that we've seen as a big benefit of the newly purchased ambulance is it's actually almost the happy medium between the two rigs that we currently have that we intend on keeping and rechassis. So it will be incredibly helpful for new members learning where things are at in the trucks. And it will be helpful for partners like fire department members or law enforcement who don't necessarily get to see the trucks all that often, to have them be fairly comparable. But for the most part, yeah, once an ambulance is as it is kind of as far as the boxes. So if you don't like the way that patient compartment is, you probably won't be purchasing that ambulance because they can vary pretty dramatically.
Okay. Discussion and possible action, resolution approving payment of change orders for the Richland County Ambulance Service. Amber.
Yes, so this, we may finally be able to have resolved and have the emergency services building addition project completely done. So we had a meeting with, Jewel and Joe Daniels. Corp Council was able to attend and we were able to work through with Jewel and Joe Daniels that, both parties agreed with us that we should not have to pay for anything to do with the unit that was purchased but was not compatible with our building, the 3-phase. Yeah, so that was a huge expense that they had been initially charging us that we will not have to foot the bill for. So they were able to adjust the change orders. So the change orders now consist of the one about the generator pad, which was the intelligent thing to do, and then some small miscellaneous things that all parties had agreed to. And then they also had adjusted, so when they went to do the final payment application, they had included a percentage of the change orders in that. And so they adjusted, added a credit to what was owed, so that we should be able to finally pay this, be square, and be done with it. So that will be fantastic.
Okay, looking for a motion. Mr. Turd, seconded by Williams. All those in favor of finalizing these final change orders, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Done.
So does this have to go to county board for approval, or is this committee enough?
County board.
Not much.
I was wondering, I just wanted to confirm.
Think
Okay.
Swish your by the board.
Because the only thing I don't remember, I think I had talked to Michael about, the one change order just needs to be signed by the county administrator. So, I figure after that, then you can sign and then we can cut a check and cut ties.
Thank you, Amber.
Number 11, discussion and possible action, citizen payment for per diems. Don't know whose this is.
Well, this is Derek and I. So in looking at the new board rules, we want to make sure that it's very, very clear how we're going to proceed with citizen payments for our committees. And in the new board rules, it says that standing committees rate per diems. But that anything else, if citizen members wish to be paid, then you must get the permission of the board chair. And so with that, our idea of how that should work would be that once the committee on committees meets, selects committees, then each committee chair will then decide whether or not to request payment for their citizen members. And that then would go before the county board chair. But we're just wanting to have some discussion, see if you all are comfortable with that process. That's our recommendation, because we're finding out that we were making payments for things that necessarily maybe aren't ours to pay. If a municipality is sending someone to sit on a board committee, the municipality should really be paying them, not the county board. And so this is more cleanup and clarification, really. And that way it's still up to you as a board who you decide to pay. But then there will be a resolution to that effect, and there will be no question as to who is getting paid for what. Derek, can you?
Yeah, I think you're right. So the new rules that were adopted clearly state that any of the 5 standing committees, so the big 5 new ones, right? Those are paid per diems. Any other, not calling them subcommittees, any other committees and boards, as it's listed in the rules, would be allowed payment should there be some sort of written approval from, as Candace just said, the powers that be that explicitly state that yes, a per diem is to be paid for that, because that is not, that process, or that procedure was not in the new set of rules we all just adopted. So for those of you that were at the last meeting when there seemed to be a bit of misunderstanding between a few board members about who gets paid for what, maybe historically in the past, there's been some sort of word of mouth, like, yep, we pay per diems for this, but not for that. But that information doesn't travel, right? Or it doesn't live forever. It's dependent on employees. So with the new set of board rules, I thought it was, Candace as well, that it was a good idea to clarify this per diem payment procedure, because it is quite a bit different than what we've had in the past. So just so she and I both have a clear vision when we're doing the payroll as to what should be paid and what should not. And so oncoming board members, new and old, know exactly what they're getting paid for when they're attending meetings, because we did not adopt a, stipend or salary for you folks. It's all based on per diem the meeting. So just to clarify that process, we wanted to talk
And
about that.
historically, we've looked back on some of these committees trying to find some sort of documentation as to whether or not they're paid, and there is none. So again, let's just be transparent. Let's decide how we're going to pay, when we're going to pay, and if we want to do it and cycle through it every 2 years when we're looking at board rules, that seems like an appropriate time to then make those decisions as to how the board wishes to pay its members that cycle.
So are we doing that now then? Or- Yes,
This is really just a discussion.
we're just.
um,
starting this.
We're seeking feedback. If you all are okay with us pursuing that procedure so that when the committee on committees meets and everyone's assigned to a committee, they elect their chair, that committee then can make the decision, yes, we want our committee members paid, and we can get the permission of the board chair, then we have a resolution. And then
I think the only committee that got paid was the fair, wasn't it?
no, there were HHS committees that got paid. It's really kind of all over the map. It's not a consistent practice. So again, this is why we want to have this discussion. And that way we have firm practice as to who's getting paid and why, and who isn't and why. Because again, if you have a statutorily required citizen member, I could see why we would be paying them. But if it's just a citizen volunteer member, are we going to pay them? Again, these are all questions that are left to you to answer, but we need that direction. Because
The volunteers know.
on some committees, yes, on others, no.
Yeah, I think we should take care of that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and citizens can be defined, you can have a peer citizen where it's just, you're sitting on oversight to fill a spot, but then there's the citizen appointed committee. So
Right.
in our discussion with Andy, there's a difference between the type of citizen, which sounds really funny and like they're splitting hairs, but really not, because the per diem comes in and they come in and do I deny payment or not? And that's what's not been entirely clear in the past. And so the new set of board rules you adopted clearly state that the standing committees are the only ones that are paid. Anything else by default is not paid unless we have some direction as to how to pay them. So that's where, when we were reviewing the committee structure, that it's like, all right, we need to maybe verbalize this again in the event that was missed, because there are lots of individuals that are going to be on committees outside the big five that we have as our standing committees.
Right.
So what you're saying is ambulance isn't gonna pay the townships when they come to that?
If it's requested, right now, they're
The only
paid.
reason why I say this is because township wise, so if I go, I'm on the fire committee at Muscadet, so the fire board pays me. The township doesn't.
Right. And that's
So
where,
that would be the same thing with the ambulance, our member from the township would be paid from the ambulance, not from the township.
right, and that's where we would leave it up to each committee to request, because in reality, that seems a little backwards, to be honest. Typically, if the
That's
municipal,
the way, that's the way it's always been.
Right.
It's right or wrong.
right, but that's what we're saying. We know that's the way the ambulance committee is, and we know that would upset some members if they're all of a sudden not gonna get paid at all. If it would be put back on the municipality and they don't wanna pay it, well, then people aren't gonna wanna sit on the committee.
Yeah, they won't.
So that's where we have to leave it up to that committee to say, okay, in the past, yes, we have paid our members. Board chair, can we continue to do this? And then we'll have a resolution that will clarify that, and that will live then going forward. So it will establish a baseline for how we're gonna do things. And we're aware that it's out there, but we're not aware with all of them. That's where, it's a little bit interesting.
Who's
You're
developing
willing
the
to-
resolution?
You're willing to let each committee make that decision though? Isn't that?
How else do you do that? Because certain committees pay now and certain committees
No,
don't.
to me, it was
Require them all to pay.
one where
I mean, and we could go all or nothing, but then why would like the housing, our housing, but the outside housing committee and the library board, those aren't our boards. We shouldn't be paying members to attend those. Those are outside boards. So again, how do we want that to work? Because if we all of a sudden start paying a bunch of people we've never paid before, that's a budgetary constraint that we didn't account for, right?
And same at the township level, but then you can go as far as on the fair committee, we have non-county board members voting on county board dollar spending.
Which is,
So,
that's why it's now a subcommittee too, because it's a
Right.
little bit of a different design and we want to make sure that we're doing things the way we should be. So.
I guess
I'm a member of Southwest Wisconsin Regional Planning.
Mhm.
I submit a per diem request for those meetings.
through the county or through Southwest?
Through the county.
Because you're the county's representative on that
On
committee.
the
Right.
committee.
Right.
So we just have to clarify
There's just
because,
no consistency.
well, and maybe you just come back with, it might be not as big a can of worms as we think. If you guys bring back what you think,
yeah, I don't think it's a big can of worms. I think the new rules we adopted said we're only gonna pay those five standing committees. That's, if we did nothing, that's all it would be. Clearly, we know that we're not going to do that. So they also say, as the old rules did, that people can go to a meeting and they can get paid if they have proof from the board chair. So it can be as simple as the committee chair or whoever, or even the board chair, by a resolution saying payments for this subcommittee are approved or they're not approved. I guess it's just having that clarification on what's paid and what's not. Now there are rules have changed because they don't have that same language and, or it's kind of similar. So it's just clarifying that.
We could visit that every 2 years like that.
Of course, but then I think you're going to review this in a year, as we said anyway, the structure and all that stuff.
We just want guidance on how you all want this done.
It makes sense.
If you want us to bring back what historically has been paid, we can look back, but it's,
Or we could present a resolution saying this is how we feel that the process would be for reimbursement of per diems outside of the standing committee structure. And give you all some clarification options to choose from, and put in a resolution.
yeah, we can do that too, if you're comfortable with that.
That's what I want you to do.
Okay, that's why we wanted discussion. So no action, just discussion.
Future agenda items. Motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Woody, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Adjourned. To the new record.